Welcome everybody. Welcome to this year's last and final version of our Partnering for Change series. So this year, 2021, we have not only lived through a pandemic, but through our Partnering for Change series, we have also deep dived and heard inspirational speakers, held conversations, and really addressed a numerous amount of different topics. From why gender equality is so important in building back a post-COVID world, to how we can actually leverage tech for good, to why it's so important to hear children's and youth voices when we're talking about actually addressing the climate change crisis we're in. So we're really excited to host you here for this last and final event of 2021, where we will be discussing social innovation and how we can together partner to actually achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So my name is Sofia Breitholtz, and I'm the CEO of Reach for Change. And as many of you know, we work with local social entrepreneurs, and we want to enable them to be able to make a better world for children and youth. We also believe that social entrepreneurs are really the secret ingredient that is so important now for tackling some of the most pressing issues that we're facing, whether it be inequality or climate change, or actually reducing poverty that we now see is on the rampage thanks to COVID. So I especially want to welcome all of you, all our guests here. We have a number of you joining online, and that's super exciting. But we also are really happy to be having a live broadcast here from Stockholm, and we have a live audience here. Maybe you want to applaud a little bit, show that you're here. It's really exciting. Through this way, we get to interact with a number of you, but we still get the message out there for those who aren't able to attend today. So today we will be guiding you through a very exciting program. We're going to be deep diving into inspirational stories on leadership, on bravery, traveling from Malawi to stories from our Reach for Change leaders to Ashoka Fellows, traveling across the world. We will also be discussing some practical examples on how partnerships can actually be used to achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. We're going to hear the results of the Nordic Changemaker study, and we're going to listen to also some concrete policy recommendations. But to start with, I would actually like to welcome our partner who's not able to be with us physically here, but who hopefully we will get online for this event. And we will be joined by Valerie Marouche from the BMW Foundation, who just wants to say a few words of welcome. Hi, Valerie.
Hello, can you guys hear me? It sounds like
perfect.
I just wanted to say hi. It's a pleasure to partner with Reach for Change for this fantastic series. I wish I could be with you in Stockholm today, but unfortunately due to COVID it wasn't possible. So I'm only joining online, and something that I think is quite fantastic is that the underlying theme of this series, whether it's gender equality or climate change, is we have to do this together, because only together we're going to get where we need to go, the more sustainable future for all of us. Well, specifically to those of you in Stockholm, maybe you can for a moment look around and look at the beautiful faces that you're seeing and appreciate this moment of getting together and having that ability to be in this together, because that's what makes us strong. And we're super appreciating all of the work that Reach for Change and also Ashoka, our partners, are doing. And thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of it.
So now I'd like to turn to the next segment of our program today. I'm super excited because I won't be moderating this next session. I will have two people who are much better suited at moderating. We will welcome Arhan Naruka and Aisha Khalif, who will join us. And do we have you here?
Yes.
Have our great moderators with us. I'm 100% sure that they will be able to dig deeper into this topic than we would have been able to here on the stage. But you guys will be talking about kind of some of the themes that William was talking about as well, responsible leadership and what type of leadership that we need going forward. And I know you're joined in these conversations with one of our Reach for Change change leaders from Bulgaria, Ivan from Single Step. But I will hand over to the three of you now to tackle this topic.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Aisha and I'm 11 years old from Tunisia. I'm here today with my friend Arihan, who will turn 11 in 2 days, and he's calling us from Gurugram in India. Today we're interviewing Ivan Dimov and Celia Fiaka, who are both social entrepreneurs and responsible leaders. Hi Celia and Ivan. We're very excited to meet you today. To start our interview, could you please tell us a bit about you, what you do, and what makes you a responsible leader? Let's start with Celia, and then Ivan can answer next.
We only have Ivan on the call, so Ivan, floor is yours.
So
just a small little question to delve into.
So
no biggie.
2 to 1, let's see if I can handle that. Yes, thank you. And hi guys. Great to be a part of this. So I was born in Bulgaria, but I spent a lot of time living in the US. I studied there and then I worked in the financial world. But I became sort of an unexpected activist after an encounter with a young guy that I didn't know, and he had tried to do sort of really bad things to himself because of who he was, he shared with his mother that he liked other boys, and he was taken to be cured in quotes of this disease, again in quotes. And this story really affected me and changed my life in a way I really didn't expect. So I came back to Bulgaria. Actually, just a couple of days ago, we celebrated our 5th anniversary of the foundation. So I still keep thinking of Single Step as a young organization, but it's already been 5 years. So what we decided to do was to establish support resources for people from that community, from the LGBTI community, so they can be themselves and feel more comfortable in their own skin. So to me, my own journey took me from the big city of New York and the financial world to really try to provide specific resources to young people in need.
Okay.
And I think we have Cecilia on the line, but she doesn't have her camera on. So if you want to ask her a question, we can give it a try.
It's unfortunate that Jero could not join us today. I hope she feels better soon. We are happy to have Cecilia with us today, though. So Cecilia, the first question is for you. I feel so lucky to have such a good life with a loving family, but how come not many children have that?
Yeah. There was a saying, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a saying just a couple of minutes ago that talent is universal, but opportunity is not. Many people have so much potential in this life, but unfortunately they lack the opportunity that there should be for each and every one of us. And I think I am in this space because I have resonated so very well with such a situation, depending upon where I came from, where I was born and bred. And I realized that we should now be in a position to really give as much opportunity as there should be for children who find themselves in such an unfortunate situation. Maybe if I have the time, I can go on and tell you a lot about why I'm saying this. I don't know how many minutes you have given me to answer your question. Have I answered your question, please?
Yes, you have.
So I have a question for both of you. Did your parents support you in what you wanted to do? Ivan, you can start.
Well, my parents really supported me way back when I decided to, make a dramatic change in my life and leave the country and go and study far, far away in the US. It was a long time ago. And it was a bit of an interesting conversation when, more recently when I told my mom that I was planning to come back to Bulgaria and establish a foundation and enter a topic which is not very easy for my country, and I assume for many other countries of the representatives on this call. But it was an honest conversation, and I really am very, very appreciative of the support that I received. So yes, I can say that they've always been behind me.
Yeah. If I can also answer that question. Yeah, in my case, I have both parents still living, but it was a very big challenge for us growing up, 6 of us single-handedly, where a mother alone had to take up a challenge of taking care of all of us, where she had never had any education, and she has never had any job that she does apart from petty farming and a peasant farming and petty trading. Where at the age growing up, we ended up having to help her to be able to help us to remain in school or to be able to see our futures realized. And frankly speaking, she went to the extreme to really see us all in school. And we ended up becoming helpers to her. And at the end of the day, today, when I look back, I would say that the kind of description we give to such a situation now is child labor. And that was what we had to go through, having to go through the farm, produce our own products, process it, and find how to sell to be able to remain in school. And all through it, we have all come up because of a sacrifice of a single mother who had to take care of 6 children, who became almost naked for our sake, and which was a big challenge. But thanks be to God, we were not bad children, I should say. And for that matter, we were able to give her the necessary support to be able to take care of us. And fortunately, we've all come up. And when I started work and I started having my family, I also have to, at a point, wanting to solve this problem, wanting to empathize with the system, looking back here, realizing that, yes, I could have ended up like how others have ended up. And I decided to really jump onto this space to really reach out and see how I can bring transformation or make a change. I had to fall on my family again. That's my own family that I started, and my mother. She didn't like it at the beginning, but I think now she has seen the impact. She's seeing the transformation that our work is bringing to the communities we work in. And everybody has now jumped on board and we are working. My foundation is called Neka Youth Foundation. In an Igbo language means Mother is Supreme. I'm sure the name came because of that. And those around in Ghana here can really testify to this fact, what a role a single mother had played in the life of 6 children who have all come up and are willing to give back to society.
Okay. So this question is for Cecilia. What experiences did you have as a child that motivated you to do the work that you do today?
There's a lot. I look back and see the sufferings I have gone through, having to walk barefooted to farm, to everywhere, being drenched by rain when in the farm, and seeing girls today and seeing young women today not having the mindset to really let them know that they could go through such situations and become somebody in society. I am highly motivated to let them know that the mindset I had at the time, despite all the challenges, I had to finish my basic education at the time called elementary school up to Form 4, where I had to come to the city to work as a maid servant. Maid servant because my big brother was in school. We were 6, and I'm the second born to the family. And I had to really come to work. Mom seeing me off to go to Accra to work as a maid servant as a teenager, and she was weeping and I was weeping. And I had no option but to come, because her words were like, Cecilia, if you stay in this community, you end up getting pregnant like other girls, finishing basic elementary school and getting pregnant. So go and get yourself engaged. When your brother finishes school, you will come back to school as well. And I could have, her wish was for me to continue my education because she's noticed that I have been very determined and I'm a result-oriented person. But unfortunately, she doesn't have the means to do it for me. When I look back, I realize, and I'm looking at the current situation, I can tell you now that the same situations that we went through growing up are the same situations that are still existing, where people drop out of school through no fault of theirs just because they lack opportunity. We were most of the time even not having our daily bread. At a point, even in school, we couldn't be in school. We had to stay with people still serving as maids or houseboys to be in school. So I think there's nothing else I could do now but to encourage those whom I am seeing now in this situation, to let them know that I have gone through it, but I've been able to surmount those challenges, and this is where I am. So they can also become just like I have gone through it and have been able to stand on their feet and not becoming burden on society.
Thank you. Ivan, did you have any haters or people who discouraged you to a point of giving up on your work? Ivan?
The answer to that question, the first part, any haters? Unfortunately, yes. The second part of the question, did they affect, the work and the determination of, what we're trying to do? No. Unfortunately, it's become a much bigger part of our lives right now through social media and the online world, where it's very, very easy to throw a very hateful comment at someone without even thinking. Unfortunately, I think it will remain with us in the foreseeable future. But my solution to that is always to surround myself with people that I trust, with positive people that have the can-do attitude. When you say, I want to do this, they don't come to you with, here's the 100 reasons why it's going to fail, but come to me with, how can I help you? And if you pay attention to those people that want to help, that extend a hand to you, and if you actually choose to accept it, haters don't matter, really. I mean, I know it's difficult. We live in this world where physical and virtual reality sort of blur, and it's very easy to think that a couple of hateful comments, is what the world thinks of you. But I would say, don't pay attention to them, really. It may be a little bit more difficult if you're in school and if you're facing bullying, be it physical bullying or online bullying, and that really affects you and it stays with you for a very long time. And my advice there would be look for someone that can help you, be it a friend, be it a parent, be it an organization. But it's the biggest waste of time to pay attention to haters. They'll always be there. They're jealous of your journey and your success, and that's how you should view them.
Great. So, Cecilia, this question is for you. How do you think children can be more involved in community issues?
Can you come again with the question?
So, how do you think children can be more involved in community issues?
I think they should be aided to do that, aided in the circles they find themselves. For a child to just stand up and wanting to do things or be involved in a community without any guide sometimes becomes an issue. That is why we want to really involve parents in supporting their children. Even at my age now, my mom finding out that it's difficult for me to do what I'm doing and feeling that maybe I'm stepping on toes or I'm trying to bring change, came strongly asking me not to do what I'm doing, even having to see some of the community leaders to stop me. So for me, the children can be involved. Their voices are heard when they have it, when they find it. So I think they need to be helped to find voices, to have voices, to be able to air whatever they want to speak to. They are the people. For a child or children to be wanting to be heard, it means there is something piercing or there is something pressing them that they would want to get solved. They may not be directly facing it, but seeing their colleagues or their age mates going through it may be a big issue for them to want to solve. So if a child should have a mind to want to have a voice or to be involved in a community, it's a good thing. There are various ways that children can be involved. We call some of them maybe volunteering or wanting to really join people or wanting to help, wanting to form various groups like we call it children's assembly or children's parliament in their various schools to want to, assuming maybe there's corruption going on that is affecting children, they can really get guidance from the local authority or their school heads, getting themselves together, shouting about the issues that are confronting them. So it is key they get involved because they are listened to.
Okay.
For both of you, what do you like to do in your free time other than working? Ivan can go first.
What do I like to do? I like running marathons. I like traveling a lot. Sometimes I like just to chill and do nothing, which is very rare. But I guess I feel the happiest when I'm busy. So I always try to find, various projects and things to do. But hanging out with friends. So nothing extraordinary, but really my outlet for everything is sports, and that's what I like to do.
Cecilia, you can answer now.
The youth, to be frank with you, are my heartbeat. So wherever I find myself, whether in the village or in the city, because I have really gotten that link with education, I always try to find myself having something to do. I work with so many communities, almost 300 communities in 4 regions in Ghana. So wherever I find myself, I have really built that rapport with the various stakeholders. So I try, if I'm not with the youth, then I should definitely be with the women, young women, especially girls out of school or teen mothers who find nothing doing. So somebody may ask, why have you involved yourself with so many things? I have involved myself into so many things because I am looking for one goal. That is to bring transformation to one child at a time. And whichever way I have to get it, I do. Today, I've already even had a program. People feel it's too much for me, but because it is my passion, I don't see it as a problem. I really want to do that in my free time. So I'm always making sure that at least I'm in touch with children. I used to like watching movies, but now it's not much of my interest anymore because I can fill that space with something very, very important. Maybe speaking to a child at a point, giving direction as to what to do in times of trouble, talking to a woman at a point, how she should, like my good friend said, not paying attention to haters, crying all day because somebody has done something to her. I definitely would want to spend my time on such. And I would not look at it as if I'm busy all the time. It's still my free time that I use in getting involved in all this. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Ivan and Cecilia. We were so glad that we were able to ask questions to you and learn about what you do. Unfortunately, we don't have more time for questions. Aisha and I are super inspired, and I'm sure those who have been watching this live are equally inspired. I will now hand it over to Sophia and the event organizers to take us to the next section of the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ariane and Aisha. That was very refreshing. I'm sure Cecilia and Ivan were also very happy not to get questions on how they measure their social impact or what their revenue model looks like. So they had, I think it was a great inspirational piece also on new ingredients to leadership and what's required. We're going to shift the conversation a little bit now from leadership to partnership. And partnership is, of course, a key theme of this whole series, but also an underlining theme of the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 17 is actually partnership for development. And we talk a lot about it, but what are we really doing? And where are the hurdles? That's what we're going to explore with my eminent panel here. So I would like to warmly welcome here in the studio Maria Bystedt from H&M Foundation. And we also have Georgia Efremova from the European Commission. And we will be joined also virtually by Åsa Skogström-Fält from IKEA Social Entrepreneurship. Hi, Åsa, nice to see you. So welcome, everybody. It's great to see you here and to deep dive a little bit into this topic. Maria, I think I will start with you. And we also often talk about the role of philanthropy in cross-sectoral partnerships, about taking an early risk and being able to maybe invest in places where others don't. Do you want to take us through a concrete example of how you have really developed a cross-sectoral partnership?
Yeah, sure. So in India, we're implementing a first of its kind, really, collective impact initiative, where we're addressing the systemic challenges that surround informal waste pickers. And the program takes a holistic approach. So we are a diverse group of 8 or 9, together with the H&M Foundation, partner organizations that all focus on different intervention areas. And these intervention areas were identified by the waste pickers themselves and prioritized by them. And it ranges from things like education, housing, health, access to social security, water and sanitation, upskilling opportunities, and perception change as well. This holistic approach is unique in itself, but what adds to it is that we're also inviting the private sector to join us, and we're working with social entrepreneurs and also industry actors. And We do this in two ways, really. The first is through an innovations challenge, where we're supporting social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs with early stage business ideas, where they see opportunities to remove or to reduce the amount of waste that ends up in landfills in India. But also combining that with increasing the opportunities for waste pickers, increasing their income opportunities. So these social entrepreneurs are supported in an accelerator, and we also introduce them to our industry network, so they get mentorship and help from industry actors in building their go-to-market strategy and connecting them really in exploring business opportunities. So the first cohort of winners, 5 of them were presented this spring, and 3 of them are now in dialogue with H&M Group, where they're exploring business opportunities, which is quite exciting. But the other aspect of bringing in the industry perspective is that we have been instrumental in creating a partnership between H&M brand and a social entrepreneur from the program, and this is not a social entrepreneur from the Innovations Challenge. This is a company that's been existing in the community for quite a while, and the results from this partnership has been quite stunning. Just recently, H&M placed an initial order of 80 million buttons that have been produced with recycled plastic that the waste pickers from the program has supplied. And that's quite an amazing number just there. And it's the partnership is working well, and they're now in dialogue to scale up the orders. So we'll see where this ends.
Thank you, Maria. Great example of scaling social innovation also through private sector collaboration. I'm going to let you off the hook for now, but then I'm going to come back to you because I'm sure this isn't easy. So I'd like to dig into some of the challenges. But before that, I would like to say hello to Åsa. And Åsa, why don't you tell us a little bit about how IKEA is working right now, and also looking at social entrepreneurship and introducing potentially into the supply chain.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. So we work similarly as H&M Foundation. However, we are set up as an impact investor. So we combine philanthropy and business. And we work with several types of social innovations globally. But the common denominator is that we always focus on tackling the growing inequalities. And of course, in our own ecosystem, you can find them in so many dimensions, close to our customers in the markets, in the raw material value chains, and of course, also in the direct supply. So depending on what social innovation we would like to scale, some turn into business, some turn into open source, some turn into compliance practices, and some into even regulations. So one concrete example would be our accelerator that we do globally every year. It's called DELA, together with Ashoka, where we only work with social entrepreneurs that work with systems change and really take that focus. And 2 of the fellows that we have been working very close with are Fernando from Brazil, who has created a whole systems intervention to make sure that affordable renovations of housings in the favelas are available, no matter how little money you have. So they have connected carpenters, banks, institutions, donations into a huge partnership. So that's one great example. I would say another one is in one of the accelerators, we partnered with Ignitia, who provide weather forecast services. And of course, in our supply chain, agriculture is present not only in the food value chain, but also in other materials like natural fibers. And smallholder farmers are very vulnerable and need access to reliable weather data. So by investing in Ignitia and impact investment, we can support across sectors that the business is organized. So even helping our own business to contribute to transforming the yield levels of smallholder farmers in a big way.
Thanks, Åsa. We'll get back to you in a minute. Also, I'd like to introduce Georgia now, though. You are coming from the European Commission. I'm sure many of the entrepreneurs who are listening here also online are, the European Commission, this big institution. How are you guys working on actually promoting these kind of cross-sector partnerships? How can you work to also work with smaller actors in the ecosystem?
Thank you very much for the question. It's a great pleasure to be with you here in person. Right, the European Commission is a big institution, big animal. We're doing many things. But in regards to social entrepreneurship, financing social innovation, and the whole policy of social finance, it is about 5 years old in the Commission, so many of the social entrepreneurs, change makers will be familiar with some of the dedicated products, de-risking products that the European Commission is supporting in order to enhance the access to finance for micro-entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs. We are now at the entry of a new period for the EU budget and new programming. So we have this very exciting integrated single investment program for the European Union. It's called the InvestEU program, and it is composed of 4 policy windows. And one of them is a dedicated policy window, it's dedicated budget for supporting social investments and skills. Now, this is going into the social economy sector. And I'm very happy to share with you some of the main developments are not just support for social enterprises as we have done them so far, and it's been very important, but we have been rather sector agnostic. So I'm really happy to say that our issue-led approach is becoming more prominent. We are also reaching out to different partners in order to leverage off innovation and social innovation and, yes, experience, proximity to the ground. And I have here in mind mainly foundations and philanthropic organizations that we want to partner with in new ways. And the previous interventions have well made the case of why this would be important to do from the EU level. I'm happy to speak about this new initiative a little bit later. Just I wanted to also say that as part of this window, we are also going to be continuing something we started already a few years ago, and it is a specific policy development and support for what we now call social outcomes contracting. But these are this new type of social finance and social contracting tools. They're known as payment by results or social impact bonds, but it's essentially about cross-sectoral collaboration and ways of delivering innovation, and also in bringing innovation into the public sector and helping the public sector do change management from inside. So this is something really exciting. We're continuing it forward, and we're also, as Commission, even going as far as doing direct testing and experimentation through innovative pilots on the ground. We're focusing on Central and Eastern Europe because this is where we feel the social finance ecosystems are less mature. Some of the social problems are deepest, but I'm happy to say more about this later. Thank you.
So I'm happy to hear that there's more investment flowing. That can be a hurdle. But what are the other hurdles? These examples sound so great. And when I hear them, I'm like, why is there not more going on? Maria, why? What are the challenges?
Well, we've actually come across a few challenges. One of them, I guess, is I described the program as holistic and with a multitude of partners, and that in itself is a challenge. It's super important to coordinate such a diverse group of actors to avoid chaos and also avoid that the partners slip back into silos, because that tends to happen. To help us steer this partnership, we've employed a locally anchored backbone organization that is a neutral coordinator in the middle that ensures that all these partners actually steers towards the overarching goals and the common agenda that we've set together. And this is where the collective impact method has been so useful for us. It's actually a tool to create more than just a regular collaboration. It's a way to really make sure that you have this constant communication within the cluster, that everyone has a shared measurement system, and that all the activities on the ground are mutually reinforcing, so that we're not sort of bumping into each other and ruining each other's efforts. So yeah, that's been one of the ways to avoid that challenge.
Åsa, what about from your corner? What are some of the challenges that you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I think some are quite similar. I think one way of addressing it is to use a theory of change approach, which maybe as a corporate is not a normal tool that you use each and every day. I think also one of the major challenges is that the different parts of the system or the different systems have different paces. And it's very hard because we drive change in different perspectives, short, medium, or long term. And although if we have the same wanted impact, we still have different indicators or wanted short-term results. And I think that is where, for instance, social entrepreneurs can come in as facilitators, maybe to be the small cogwheels between the different systems. But they will not solve everything. We all also need to put another perspective into the time of our leadership and the way we do the leadership, as was spoken of earlier today.
Thank you, Åsa. Georgia, a final reflection from you, a tip you would like to leave the listeners who we have today, who are embarking and looking for these kinds of partners that they can find. How would you encourage them?
So first, I guess I would address foundations because our offer for partnership is mainly towards the organizations from the philanthropic sectors. There are now numerous ways to engage with EU instruments, including in co-investment for mission critical areas. We want to join efforts around core societal challenges for Europe, including equality and inclusion, and media pluralism, democracy, and sort of the societal transformation related to the to climate change, to addressing climate change that is needed. So yeah, joining efforts for addressing this common mission. We have co-investment opportunity, de-risking mechanisms for the endowments and channeling philanthropic endowments towards more sustainable mission areas, a new type of instrument that we want to develop that will be important for smaller grassroots projects to provide flexible and adapted finance are those pooled mission funds that will blend EU and philanthropic capital, and then a collaborative platform that we're going to be launching to actually work on partnerships and ecosystem around this mission areas. So hopefully, with all this work, all this coordination, all this leadership within all these institutions, not only directed to the public, will translate into a more adapted, more flexible, better type of funding for the great change-making initiatives on the grassroots level.
Thank you. I feel like we have just scratched the surface, which we have. But what I would like to suggest is, there's so much great content here, and you guys have such great examples. So I'll encourage also the audience to, after this event, ping us with questions, and we will facilitate between Åsa Maria and Georgia, and try and answer these questions, because as I said, I think there's so much to dive into here with the different actors. But I would love to thank you all for joining us today, Åsa, Maria, Georgia. It's great to see that there's a lot of progress being made here with flexible funding, introducing the social entrepreneurs, de-risking some of the investment. It's leaving me very hopeful. So thank you for that. So thank you for joining the first part of this session. I think it's been great. We've whizzed through leadership, partnership. We've had a great definition of why social entrepreneurship is needed from our brilliant keynote, William. But now I would like to invite to the stage Niklas Wahlberg, the country manager of Sweden for Reach for Change, and Emma Lindgren, the director of the Nordics for Ashoka Nordics, who will be guiding us through the next part of our program today.
It's an honor to It's a huge honor to welcome you all to the official launch of the Nordic Changemaker Map that we've been working on for more than 12 months, and also the second part of today's event.
And we're very excited today because this is the first time that we will share the results after gathering input and data from over 540 changemakers in the Nordics and in-depth conversation with 220 of them. That's 30 days of active listening. And we've done that with young changemakers, social entrepreneurs, and innovative collaborations around the Nordics. And the main areas, and that's interesting for you to know who's here online and in the audience, is the main themes has been education, youth empowerment, and climate change.
Now it's my turn.
It's your turn, and let's talk a bit about today.
Yeah, so during the coming hour, we will deep dive into the Nordic, as well as the 21 local trends that we found throughout this journey and mapping initiative. We won't touch upon all the 21, I promise, but the most interesting one. And we're not going to do it alone, thankfully. We have a fantastic lineup of guests that will join us on stage or online. But first, who are we?
Yeah, so Emma, she heads up Ashoka Nordics, as you heard before, but she's also a keen skier, and her favorite band at the moment is Monica Mac.
Yes.
Important to know.
Very trend sensitive. She's in Så mycket bättre at the moment. And Niklas is the country manager of Reach for Change in Sweden, and he's a keen canoeist and also loves live music. And Ashoka, we are happy to be a co-host of this second part of today. And for those that don't know us, we are also a global network of social entrepreneurs. We've been around for 40 years, supporting system-changing social entrepreneurs in various ways. We have 3,800 of them in more than 90 countries. We also focus a lot on supporting youth with change-making skills and their initiatives. And we do lots of interesting collaborations and collective impact initiatives as well. And Reach for Change.
Yeah, you heard a little bit about Reach for Change before, and similarly to Ashoka, we support social entrepreneurs. But our twist is that we support entrepreneurs who work specifically with children and young people. And so far, during the 10 years, we worked with over 1,200 social entrepreneurs who themselves have supported over 4.3 million children and young people in the world. Yeah. And now, Emma, a good question, even before we start to invite all these people. Why did we do it? Why did we do this extensive mapping exercise?
Yeah, besides being a bit crazy, I must admit, it was because we've been around here in Sweden for 10 years, both Ashoka and Reach for Change, and we really felt it was time to take a step back and get an overview and listen to all the great social entrepreneurs and change makers in the region to understand what's the biggest challenges and how can we adapt some of our support to really match that and be relevant and useful for the next decade. But also, why didn't we just do Sweden, you might wonder? It's because we have a great network and staff members in the whole Nordic region. So we thought, let's go Nordic. And also, of course, many of the social entrepreneurs that want to expand, they often try it within the region first because of the similarities. So that's why, and Niklas, now I'm asking you, how is the Nordic Changemaker Map different from other social entrepreneurs reports that we have?
Yeah, so I think there's three things. So firstly, it's a grass-based exercise. So it's conducted by actors who know the field, but also the 17 network partners, and some of them are in the room here today, and some of them are with us online. But it's also the social entrepreneurs who actually nominated their peers to be part of this mapping. So it's not just only the usual suspects, but that we actually hear voices from various parts of the countries. And then secondly, all the data is open source. So it's available for researchers and other actors who's interested in the field, understanding the life of a social entrepreneur, how it connects, how they connect to each other and so forth. And then thirdly, it's action orientated. So these country reports, they include analysis, but also recommendations, how they can take the field forward in each country. And it's done so together with country experts. But now let's dive into what we're going to do for this hour, Emma.
Yes, so first we were going to invite the enablers and the partners that have been part of this journey with us to hear why they did so and learn a bit from their experience. Then we will talk to some of the participants, so some of the change makers and social entrepreneurs, actually from all 4 countries where we did the mapping. And then we're going to end up with having an in-depth conversation with Gabriel Wikström, who used to be a minister and now works with the Agenda 2030 framework. And by the end of this hour, as a cliffhanger, we will of course share the fresh 3 new country reports. The Finnish one was done earlier this year, and also links to the digital maps that are now up for grabs and open for everyone to use. But let's go on straight away, I think, yes, and invite the first panelist. So Marie Dahlöf, welcome. You head the Swedish Postcode Foundation. Warm welcome. We also have Jenny Elfsberg from Vinnova here in the room. Perfect. Hi. And also Clara Dave from the Academy of Social Innovation in Denmark, who's been part of leading our efforts in Denmark. And then online we have Hannele from Sitra in Finland. Oh, there you are. Perfect. Hi. And also Sarah from Norway, who's an independent expert on the social entrepreneurship field and also a former colleague of mine at Ashoka Nordic. So warm welcome to all of you. And I'm going to kick us off, right? So let's start with you, Marie. Why did the Postcode Foundation get involved in this mapping?
Well, we have been funding social entrepreneurs since quite a long time. We started in Sweden in 2007. So we have experience of funding, and of course we were wondering what's happening at the moment. But also my experience from my previous employers who were social entrepreneurs is that it's some of the same questions that were 16 years ago when I started are still the same. So again, what's happened in the meantime? And for all those questions, I thought this would be a really good initiative to fund, to actually map the status quo, or what's happening, and also what are the obstacles for the sector to grow, because I think it's really, really important. This is an important group of people, all the change makers, to reach the Agenda 2030. So those were our reasons for entering into this project.
Super clear, thanks a lot. And I'm going to turn now we're going to switch a bit from in the room and online. So Hannele, why did Citra get involved?
Yes, thank you. So I'm happy to be here online in the event. Well, what Mari just said was almost exactly what I was supposed to say as well. So I come from the Finnish Innovation Fund Sitra, which operates underneath the Finnish Parliament, and our mission is to build a successful tomorrow of Finland, and we do believe that the future is made together. And how we do that is that we bring Finnish decision makers and change makers to join processes and launch initiatives that build bridges between different actors in the society. And so this is to say that the change makers are a very important target group for us too, as for all of you as well. Finland, as all the other Nordic countries as well, have a good ability to promote social innovation, mainly because we have the strong welfare state. But despite this, we do lack understanding on the new efforts of social entrepreneurship in its various forms. And so we got involved since we wanted to understand more profoundly what kinds of challenges change makers face in today's world, and what kinds of opportunities they see ahead in order to actually meet the needs they have to support them better. And from our perspective, like from Ashoka's perspective as well, anyone can be a change maker, and so no one is born with these skills. And this is why we believe that the skills and capabilities of social change making can and should be supported and developed by change maker initiators like Citra. That's about it.
Great, thank you. And now we're going to move into another question here. So the reports, the 4 country reports in total have identified 21 local trends. I'm turning towards another country here. Let's welcome Denmark into the conversation. And I'm interested to hear what's the most relevant theme for you and your organization.
And thank you so much for the invitation. We're really happy to be here today. So our purpose in the Academy for Social Innovation is to create this space for cross-sectoral collaboration and social innovation. So for us, it was really interesting and also a little bit discouraging that one of the trends from the Danish report was that collaboration with the existing systems is really, really difficult for the change makers, and they often experience that the system stands in the way. There's really a small space for experimentation and challenging the status quo that these change makers are really motivated to do. And it has quite a lot of consequences for them. It's really hard for them to find sustainable business models. It affects their self-confidence, and it's also, it really affects their opportunity to make the difference that they want. So that's something we're gonna work with in the future.
Sounds good. All right, so let's move to Sweden, and Jenny from Vinnova, looking at the recommendations that you've seen for Sweden. Which one is the most relevant for Vinnova in Sweden as you see it?
Small risk to be a bit boring. I think this true cross-sector collaboration is actually where all of us probably see how we are stagnated or how we need to make it happen. We are all, comfortably sitting in our sector and maybe conforming a bit with the people around us, where we actually have to step out of our comfort zone and see how we actually can lean in and create those collaborations. So yeah, I second that.
One of the key findings in the Swedish report is that there's a lack of support felt by the change makers and also peer-to-peer network. So why do you think it's still so lonely out there, Marie?
Well, I thought this result was actually quite a surprise, because I thought there would be a strong network, considering that these people are really good at collaborating, or these people, it sounds so bad to say that, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
So I was sort of thinking, why is it? And I think it's because I think it's quite a different, social entrepreneurs can be very different. I mean, there are non-profit social entrepreneurs, there are for-profit social entrepreneurs, very different characters, very different models. And I think those are the things that kind of divide more than they unify. So I think to change that, I think, again, focus more on the impact and on the impact that you're achieving, and find the things that unify rather than what differs. And I think that's something that perhaps can change or be a stronger point. So I thought it was surprising. And there was something else. And yeah, another reason is that I think these entrepreneurs as well are extremely focused on achieving things. They're goal focused, and there's very little time, and there's also very little resources to do the networking. Like you are target focused. And I think that kind of also explains why there is lonely out there still.
Thank you. I mean, when you read the report, you will get a really broad overview of some of the points that Marie is talking about. And if we move into Norway here and welcome Sarah into the conversation, one key insight there is that the Norwegian innovation system is quite heavily focused on tech and IT startups, and that the ecosystem for social entrepreneurs is quite unsupported. And I'm interested to hear from you, Sarah, in your thoughts, and if you can elaborate on this finding.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here and see you all again. I think it's a power thing as well, that a lot of the power and the money gets sort of like invested on the IT and tech, as well as the narrative. So you've got the mindset and the systems are all set up for that, as well as the sort of structural spaces where people are meant to go and network. And I just sometimes think if we built up a sort of different ecosystem around the social innovators, it would look so different if we started from scratch. Instead of trying to mirror it, we would be in the communities. We'd be building these safe spaces for trust and relationship building, and for people to go there and see what's emerging and somehow link them together. And it would be such a different kind of sort of, say, hurdle to sort of start expressing what ideas and what change you really want to see. And yet somehow they're forced into this sort of shiny spaces and competitive environments, and we're going to sort of like go through linear processes. And we've really got to start again, I think, and really have some visionary leader that comes in and says, oh, look, we could do something really different if we want to make the positive change we want to see, and not just let the IT sort of co-opt all the words around social sustainability and impact.
Thank you, Sarah. That's really interesting. And I'm going to turn now from Norway to Denmark and ask you, Clara. We're jumping around a lot here. One of the key findings in the Danish report is that the concept of social entrepreneurship and changemaking is quite complex still and not really known by the public. And this can create some confusion and also misunderstanding, because that the public still seem to think that this is a side business, something they do as a hobby. So how is this a problem, and what can be done?
Yeah, and I think it actually builds on what Sarah just said, that we have, it's interesting that these commercial entrepreneurs, or the tech app entrepreneurs that we know, and we see them celebrated in TV shows, and children are interested in it, and they're sort of kind of the rock stars of this time. But the people that work with the solutions to like most social problems, they're met with skepticism, at least in the Danish case, because people don't really understand their motives. Why are they taking on solving this job? And they experience what William actually said in the beginning. He was met with people laughing at him. Are you crazy? Why are you running around doing this? And it's kind of the same feeling. And I think in the Danish case, it's got to do with the general notion in Denmark that social problems are handled by the public sector. And we've got this. There are people, there are systems taking care of this. So why are you taking on the job? So I think a way forward is to sort of try and create this new narrative or understanding of that innovation and social entrepreneurship is needed, and that we're actually dependent on these change makers trying to do things differently.
And let's take a few of these things on, because let's move from the themes. So each country has up to 9 themes in the reports, but it also works with recommendations. So let's start with which recommendation that speaks to you, and let's start to Hannele in Finland. So which recommendation of your country report speaks the most to you and Sitra?
Yeah, well, I picked actually 3 of them. So the first one was building of public awareness on social innovation. The second one was providing support throughout a change maker's journey. And then the third one that I picked was building stronger networks. And just if I go really briefly just through what was inside of these and why I picked these, was that if related to the public awareness, in the mapping, 94% of the respondents said that social innovation and social entrepreneurship is not well known in Finland. And we even lack the terminology needed to speak about it. And as the other panelists said also, that there's the change makers in Finland lack the identity needed, or they don't feel that they belong into any group. So we do see that Sitra has this required position to speak on behalf of the field, and we can raise public awareness and communicate this to wider audience. Also, the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment in Finland has just recently launched here a Center of Excellence on social entrepreneurship. So I think this is one step towards the public awareness as well. Then the second one, the support throughout a change maker's journey. So a lot of the respondents said that they need long-term support. So not just arranging short-term hackathons or workshops, whereas developing capabilities on long-term basis. And for example, at Sitra, we have this training program called Sitra Lab, in which we bring change maker teams from all over the society to work on social innovation together for 6 months of duration. So this is one way we can do that. And then the third one, build stronger networks. So of course, as it is in our mission to build bridges between different sectors. So this is in one of the core activities. And also, as mentioned in the mapping as well, that many change makers said they need mentors, they need support networks. So for example, building different changemaker communities, mentoring models, peer-to-peer learning opportunities, accelerators, and learning programs for changemakers. So at least all of these, and of course, supporting the building of ecosystem of changemakers in Finland in general. So these 3.
Thank you, Hannele. And talking about the long-term support, a key obstacle across the 4 countries was the lack of funding, and more specifically, the lack of long-term funding, and maybe this tiredness of having short-term project funding. So I had the final question goes to you, Jenny. So how do your Vinnova and your organization work with enabling this more long-term focused funding for social change?
Yeah, it's a problem with how we are used to fund projects, because we have been, you have to explain your project scope and who the partners are and all that. And it's partly a little bit restricted by rules, European rules. But if we make sure we have a direction, long-term direction, and at Vinnova, we have these 3 things. Yes, we are funding, but we are also mobilizing the system and also identifying where are the gaps where we should go in and do stuff. So I think even if we are somewhat stuck with the project format, we can still have the directionality and make sure we get that long-term commitment. And then I think the recommendation regarding mindset is super important, because if we get this win-win relationship with the long term, like this is what we're going to accomplish, not only for the first partners on board, but also for others that can join later, we can actually make that movement towards a vision come true. come true. And then we have the long term, even if we don't have that according to the regulations.
Just a short comment on that, if I may. Vinnova was the first partner for this when it was just a pilot, before we had Citra and Postcode and everyone else on board. So I think that was very brave. So I just wanted to say special thank you, but also thanks to every one of you who have been enabling this from the start. And it's just a start also. Do you have any more questions?
No, I think we are ready to move on. So a big thank you for this panel. And let's dive into the next one, Emma.
Yes. So while the first panel was now on the enablers of the social entrepreneurs and change makers, we will now go to the doers, so the ones that are driving the social change on the ground. So I'm very excited to welcome change makers from across the Nordics. First of all, we have Markus Raivio, working on mental health in Finland, joining us online. Lisa Cooper, working on inclusion in Norway. Frida Olsson with us here in the room, here from Sweden, working on inclusion and job creation. And then Emil Bender Lassen from Denmark, working on sustainable urban development. A warm, warm welcome.
And also, if you want to read more about the organizations, in the chat, we'll put all the web addresses so you can dive into that as much as you can later on. But let's start with one theme that's similar in all countries, and it's the personal connection to the issue, the problem that the founders are addressing. And I'm interested to hear from you, Lisa, how it was for you. Why are you doing what you are doing?
Oh, first, thanks for this, and thanks for this event, and thanks for some really great reports that I really hope we can get some follow-up on. My journey into mentoring actually started when I landed in Norway, 25 years old, a successful business person in New York, to a country that had 2% immigrants. This was 33 years ago. It was that, you know, learning a new language, trying to understand new customs, trying to build a network, your self-esteem is low, your self-confidence is low. And what is one of the solutions that I quickly found was building contact, building good relationships. And that's when we started, or that's when I first got ideas at a very early stage to start a mentor program to do just that. I don't think we can hear you. We still can't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, dear God.
I can hear you, Lisa.
I can hear you,
Lisa.
Lisa.
People online.
All right, so should we go to Markus?
We hear
then?
you now
Is that
again.
fine? Yeah, let's go to Markus. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. Greetings from Finland. My name is Markus Raivio, and I'm very honored for you having me here in this meeting. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to work in the field of human happiness. We're working in the mental health field in Kukunori, representing 43 organizations, NGOs in Finland, and through them representing 17,000 people suffering from mental health issues. To answer your question, how did I get this? It has to be a long story, and there has to be like 20 different kind of incidents. But one of them was that my grandmother was actually suffering from schizophrenia, and Helli, my grandmother, was the last ones in Finland who actually was made with lobotomy surgery, which was a not very good thing to do. But as I've heard from my father, that was and it still is actually one of the Nobel Prize acts in mental health and solutions. And I was really wondering when I was about 9 or 10 years old that there has to be better ideas. I'm sure that I can figure out better ideas than lobotomy to help people suffering from mental health issues. So I think that's one of the key reasons that I got so excited about this, and I've been working with social innovations now for 10 years.
Super. I think we should also let Emil comment on that.
So I missed out a bit, but I assume the question is still how I ended up doing what I'm doing today. Is that correct? Brilliant. Then I guess I have a fun twist on the story, because the way I ended up in Home.Earth was actually saying no to joining the first time, because I thought that real estate was probably the most conservative and boring place to be in the whole world. But then my co-founder, Rasmus, who was the guy taking the initiative to start our new company, I guess just educated me a little bit and made me understand how central urban development is in our lives and on our planet. And when understanding this, it was quite natural to me to jump into this sector, because what I really care about is social mobility, and what I also tried to contribute with to the Changemaker Map was my learnings from my previous work with a charity called Project Access that I helped start about 5 years ago, which is a charity where what we're doing now is more of a for-profit social enterprise. So it was a very natural place to be if you want to work with social mobility and climate change in one, to be in the real estate industry. I just needed some education before understanding that myself.
Super, thanks so much, Emil. And one of the themes also across the Nordic countries, is that networks and communities matters more for scaling impact than funding does. So it's more of an enabler. So I was wondering, Frida, how is this true or not true for you at Right to Play?
Well, I think it's maybe equally so that funding is really, really important, of course, but community is as well. I mean, Right to Play is a global organization. We work with protecting, empowering, and educating youth to rise above different types of adversities in different types of regions and parts of the world. And in Sweden, we've been working a lot with newly arrived youth and foreign-born youth to help them and support them to be active participants in society. And a lot of this is through taking part of the labor market to create their own sustainable futures, really. Starting up in Sweden 5 years ago, key part for us was to take part of the Reach for Change community and be a part of their incubator innovation for integration. And with both the support and the community that we had through Reach for Change, we were able to grow, I think, much faster, to learn so much more, because we know that we're a small organization in Sweden, so we can't be experts with everything and in every area that we work in. So we've taken it upon us to create strategic partnerships and communities where we can focus on our strengths and build upon ours together with others who are experts in other areas. So we have that community through Reach for Change, and we've also built our network through that community. And we've taken the same approach when we work with cross-sectoral collaborations, that we build strategic partnerships where we see that we can strengthen the other partner and they can strengthen us in different types of areas. So I think it's a key factor to make societal change.
That's wonderful, and it sounds like we have a lot to learn in that networking skills that you built up over these 5 years. And also, by the way, we haven't asked you to promote Reach for Change, but it's great to hear that you have had their support.
At least I didn't ask the question.
Super. And Marcus, do you also want to comment on that, how communities and networks have been important or not for you?
Well, I think that what COVID actually has shown us is that the world is much smaller these days, and the communication between different countries are easier than ever. And I have never seen so much collaboration with different countries than now these days, and it's really easy to access that. But I think we really need more collaboration, more networks in social entrepreneurship, and I think this is something that we should really work on, that we could have platforms and different kind of networks that we could actually just support each other. I think this is very important, and I think this is something that many people are missing, that they could be working very alone with their big questions about world. And also I'm thinking that the Nordic countries, we have such a lot of things in common. We have very much same kind of values and same kind of ideas that we can really share, and I'm sure we can find so much more than we should do now. That I think the time is ripe for the new networks across the Europe and across the whole global world.
I wish we had time to ask everyone each question, because I know, for instance, Lisa is doing a brilliant work with gathering similar organizations across the Nordics to work on similar common projects and summits, etc. We'll come back to you, Lisa, in a while, not on this question. So I'll give it to you.
One of the key obstacles that we're seeing is the lack of funding, and more specifically, organizations feel that they are trapped in the short-term project funding. So I'm interested to hear from you, Emil. What kind of funding do you think is necessary, and also what do you see as your and your other organizations' responsibility to achieve what you want?
Yeah, great question. So I think if I flip back to Project Access International, which is the charity I led until summer last year, we were a charity, so nonprofit by design, and we started out figuring out what kind of impact we wanted to create, what kind of intervention we wanted to create. And then only after that, we started exploring how to fund it. And we were lucky to get a lot of philanthropic funding in the beginning, which led us to probably zoom in even further on creating impact and then thinking about money secondly. And I think looking back, that was probably a big mistake, because the sooner you realize that you need to build in some kind of business model into your work, even if it covers only, say, 60% of your costs, and then you cover the rest with external funding or philanthropic funding, then figuring out where you can align your impact work and your revenue, the sooner we get there, the better. And we're still figuring that out. I think we're up to maybe about 60% of our costs covered by revenue now in that charity. But I would love to push that further. So what I have talked about when being interviewed about the Changemaker Map is exactly this need for proper long-term support on identifying sustainable business models and understanding the diversity of business models that are out there as well, that other organizations are using successfully, and then learning from those and figuring out which ones can be applied in the type of organization we're at.
Super. It sounds like you've spent a lot of time thinking through this.
Been very frustrated for a very long time as well.
So I'm going to jump into another theme, which is the need for more cross-sector partnerships and true partnerships that will really meet as equal allies rather than funder, executor, for instance. So I was wondering, Marcus, for you, how does a true impact partnership look like?
I think it's all about the trust, and I think it's all about the common things that we should. I think one of the key elements, actually, we agreeing with Emil a lot over here, is that what we need is to identify what is the social innovation and really make that visible. And I think one of the key aspects on that could be that we would have more platforms and more tools to evaluate and show the outcomes and show the impact that we are making. I'm sure that through that, all the cross-sectoral parts would be much more interested to work with us, just to see that what kind of good work we are doing. And I think that could be the key for the funders also.
We're going to move in. I just want to make a comment before as well, that I know that Right to Play has really worked on this partnership angle and really tried new different methods and methodologies and setups and so forth. But then in true sense of trying to see what we can do of the work that we've done here to incorporate that into your future work, I want to hear from both Frida and then Lisa. What would you like to see as a result of this initiative, the Changemaker Map? And let's start with Frida and then we'll move into Lisa.
Thank you. Well, I think the building of communities needs to be cross-sectorial as well as the collaboration. So you have to build those relationships, I think, to be able to make change. So it has to start sooner. And my wish would be that maybe some of the institutions and agencies here today see that they have a chance to take responsibility to build those communities between sectors. I heard some previous speakers saying that as well. But I actually think, we got also funding from Vinnova, and I think that you do it very well today. In a social innovation call that was made, it's project-based funding, yes, and we need that to be longer term, but we had a possibility to do it in several steps where we can test and try out an innovation, because I think that's so important that you get the opportunity. You have to test and try and fail and evaluate and learn and do that over and over again to be truly innovative. And you can't do that with short-term target-based funding. So I think making that possible to do it in several steps has been really, really good for us. And maybe that's one way of looking at more long-term funding, because I see, of course, that trust, yes, but we also have to have some return on investment, be that a societal impact. So we have to get a proof of concept and see that we are actually doing what we want to do and that it has the impact that we intended. So I think that's maybe one way of doing it.
Great, thank you. And let's take notes, everyone. There's good points during the whole event here. Now, Lisa, what do you see as the main outcome that you want to see from an initiative like the Changemaker Map?
I think if I can address two areas, because I really totally agree with Frida, but I think it is a tremendous model that can be used to educate on a systems approach. It can be used also to educate the private sector. This is our ecosystem, yeah? It can be used to to establish collaborations and to find collaborations. But for me, what really is pressing is really the funding. And I think, let's listen to some of the speakers that started talking about lots of different creative financing schemes on collective impact that require that you think of systems. It is really, in some sense, we're sort of doing ourselves a disfavor when we're constantly applying for funding for simple interventions without having a demand to really change the system. So there's a need for partnerships. There's a need to use the maps and what you've done to sort of educate, the system in itself and make demands. But there's a lot of education that needs to be done. There's a mindset shift and a hell of a lot of advocacy. And I think you guys have really weaved together a beautiful story that really needs government officials to also say, okay, let's change how the registration for social entrepreneurs. Let's really, you showed us a system, but let's really make it dance differently, as you say in Ashoka.
That's good. Thank you very much. And I think this is a good segue, actually. So thank you very much for everyone in the panel, on the stage, Frida here, and everyone else that's online. And we're going to move into the next step, and that's part of the decision-making process. One of the key things that we actually also found in the mapping is that this field is quite hard to understand, and it's also hard to understand who's in charge of this field when it comes to government. So both in regards to the departments, but also the minister portfolios, because it touches them all. So it's hard to know who to go to. Also, just to add to the reality of democracy and the situation in Sweden today, where we're forming a government today, they couldn't be here today. But we have the best of two worlds, because we have a former minister, so a former decision maker, who's now the coordinator for Agenda 2030 here in Sweden. So a big warm welcome to Gabriel Wikström. I think he will join us soon. I can see soon a picture up there. So hopefully he can hear me now, Gabriel, and I'll ask the first questions while I'll see if I can get you in a picture here. But through the studies that we've done, we've seen that Agenda 2030 has been really important for our change makers, social entrepreneurs, and the people that we are talking to in forming a joint direction towards a better future and a common language. So I want to hear from you how familiar you are with the language of social innovation and social entrepreneurship, and how they can be a tool to reach Agenda 2030. And a big welcome again.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. I don't think that I have come across the terminology before, but as phenomenons, they are, of course, crucial to both the work with the 2030 agenda, but also when it comes to the social dimension of the 2030 agenda. And especially in a country as Sweden, and I think that we will probably touch upon this later on, but we are a country that has for a very long time worked as a role model for other countries when it comes to creating social sustainability. We have a welfare state that has been well functioning for many decades, and we have done some real progress when it comes to social mobility and equity and so on. But today I must say that we have a system, at least when it comes to social affairs outside of the healthcare sector, where we don't really have a system, where the system is broken or it really at least isn't up to date. And this creates a lot of problems for social entrepreneurs so I think that one key to strengthen social entrepreneurs is really to strengthen the system in general.
And you've been a coordinator now for roughly a year, and I heard some of the key insights that you learned. But if you would just shortly describe 3 key insights that you learned from the past year, what would that be?
Well, first and foremost, I believe leadership is key, and I somehow realized that before I became a national coordinator, of course, but I have realized that leadership and individual leadership when it comes to political decision makers and when it comes to business leaders and so on are really tremendously important to move the agenda forward. And secondly, I would say that I think that we are always asking for new tools to implement the agenda. I believe that we already have all the tools that we need to implement it, but the big challenge is really to use them and to dare to use them. This is not a question of innovation in that sense, but it is a question of political and leadership innovation in using the whole of the toolbox. And I would say also that people and organizations need to realize their power when it comes to contribute to the transformation and the implementation of the 2030 agenda. I have been working a lot and discussing a lot with public agencies, and I am very often surprised of how they limit their own capacity and their own power in different senses. They could do a lot more within the existing framework and within the rules and regulations that we have today. It's all about daring, really.
So you're talking a little bit about courage there, and I'm interested to hear, because your role now is as of a coordinator, not a decision maker, which you were before. So from your experience as a decision maker, how do you think that the field of social innovation and social entrepreneurship can gain more traction within government?
Well, in politics, it's always a question about what issues that are at the very top of the agenda. And I think that to be relevant, you need to address those issues. And today, it should be really easy for many social entrepreneurs and people working with this kind of issues, because one of the top issues of Swedish politics today is gang criminality. It's about the deadly violence. It's about segregation. And all those issues need to be addressed not only as judiciary issue, but as a social issue. Social issues that need to have a much stronger response from both the public sector, but also the private and the civil sector.
And one of the things that came out from the mapping as well was timing is key, especially in the Swedish country report. But we also see that it's a challenge that if you just go for what's strong in the public opinion, you will never get the long-term investment in a way. So you sort of strengthen the short-term project funding. How do you look at that when it comes to working with government and changing systems and so forth, if you're too much dedicated to public opinion and the opportunity is short-term?
Well, it's all about how you play it, really, because, for example, gang criminality, deadly violence. This could, as you are pointing out, lead to a bunch of new projects, short-term projects. But when focusing on these issues and these problems, you need, of course, to address them and we're really giving the answers that are focusing on how to build a stronger capacity in the society as a whole, handling these kinds of problems, and also how you could strengthen both the professionals working in the field and the institutions. So that is really, you are addressing different issues depending on which one that are at the very top of the agenda, but you're doing it in a way that will strengthen the core capacity of society, and in that case also the long-term impact of the initiatives and so on.
Great, thank you. And now we looked a little bit at what the field of social innovation can do and the players and actors within it. What do you think that departments and ministers can do for the field of social entrepreneurship and social innovation? So flipping the picture a little bit.
Well, I believe, as I pointed out in the beginning, that strengthening the system, the capacity of municipalities, regions, public agencies are really keys to also strengthen social entrepreneurship. 4 years ago, when I was a minister, I was responsible not only for public health, but healthcare and the entire healthcare system. And in the healthcare system, we have had so many entrepreneurs, doctors, nurses, so on, that has really pushed and driven the development forward. And they have been able to do that because we have had a strong system, strong healthcare system, and strong institutions. So they have had partners and been able to thrive within a strong environment. And we are lacking it, as I pointed out before, in the social fields outside of the healthcare sector.
Great, so building a strong foundation in order to really get the ideas flowing and also get the support for the doers, the people on the ground.
Yes, because as I believe many pointed out in your report, they don't know where to begin. They find the field quite confusing, and they are not sure who is the one responsible for different aspects of the system. And I think that these are issues that are important to sort out, not only for social entrepreneurs, but also for addressing the issues like deadly violence in a much better manner.
Great, thank you, Gabriel. And I actually have a final question, and it's based, we will hand over these reports to decision makers in the Nordics, but we will also hand over questions from our panelists here today. So if you could ask a question to a decision maker, one key question, what would that be?
It would be, when will we see a stronger public health system in Sweden?
It's good. So hopefully they have a quick solution for that, and and then we say. But it's good timing with the new form cabinet then. Gabriel, a big thank you for taking the time, and a big round of applause for Gabriel here in the room.
Thank you.
Gabriel and Niklas for that. I think I've been in this field now for 7 years, and a lot have changed positively. I think that we've seen that today with more and more businesses seeing the potential in teaming up with social entrepreneurs and change makers, and also the foundations and some of the agencies really backing it. So I think we see progress, but there's still some room to develop. And I think bridging the decision makers and the social entrepreneurs and understanding that they can learn a lot from one another, I think that's clear. So I'm super happy that we're now sending these reports out. I'm also happy that we are launching now the 4 reports. So you're going to get the links in the chat any moment. And we really want you to read them, and also especially focus on the recommendation. And in case you have good ideas on how to contribute to making them come alive, do reach out to us, and we would love to partner up. When it comes to the digital maps, it's all open source, so especially for researchers, and we already have conversations with a couple. But if you are a researcher and find the data interesting, do reach out as well, because there's a lot to still be uncovered. And to dig deeper into hidden connections, etc. there. I'm very pleased to say that we have 4 ongoing work streams in the Nordics at the moment, where we are already implementing some of the recommendations. One of them is the newly formed Network for Social Entrepreneurship here in Sweden, that Ashoka and Reach for Change, together with 7 other supporting organizations, are working with. And the goal there is, 1, to work much closer with policymakers, and 2, to make sure that our support really sync and develop vis-a-vis the real needs of the market. The second is similar initiative happening in Finland, initiated by the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, where Ashoka in Finland plays a role. Also, in a European Commission, you mentioned that there's a lot of things happening, and there are consortiums set up in each of the member states. So luckily, Reach for Change, Inkludera and Mötesplats Social Innovation is part of the Swedish, and the Academy in Denmark is part of the Danish. So we do have a voice and a role to play there as well. And then most importantly, we will continue as Ashoka and Reach for Change to do our best to really make sure that we continue supporting the social entrepreneurs and the change makers locally on the ground, and adapting our initiatives and programs to the needs. So now I'm going to hand over back to you, Sophia, and thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, Niklas and Emma. I think that was a great deep dive. As a sum up of today's session, I'd like to leave you with 2 thoughts. The first was what Gabriel just finished off now, saying that we have the tools, we need to dare to use them. And the second is coming back to where we started this afternoon from William, that talent is universal, but opportunity is not. So how can we kind of combine these 2 questions? That's what I would love to continue to explore with you guys. But for today, I want to say a big thank you to our partner for this afternoon's event, which is BMW Foundation. And big thank you to all our guests who are joining us via live stream. And I would like to say goodbye to you here, and please follow the links in the chat, and you guys will then be able to access the reports and also follow up with some follow-up questions to the panel that we had today on partnership. So thanks everybody for joining in. But for you.